Okay, so we are here to speak about how some organization in all Europe do to work with democratic confederalism politic principles. So we have Dinos that represents the platform of confederalism democratics of Greece. We have Hector for Apoyo Mutuo from Spain. We have Sarah from the initiative of Democratic Confederalism of Germany. And we have Christine and Julian from the French group L'Initiative. L'Offensive, pardon. So maybe as we are many people to speak and there are several questions, try to shorten your to be efficient in your answers, and that's it. I will ask for some question, and after you speak one after one other, all and that's it. Okay. So first, I will ask you to present shortly your group, is the activity of your organization, and maybe to the number of participants you think you have, in order to allow us to see the scale of your political activity in your country. So let's begin with Sarah of Initiative für Democratic Confederalismus.
Yes, the Initiative for Democratic Confederalism in Germany is spread around Germany. I think we are more or less in 7 locations in Germany, widespread, which can be challenging, but it's also very nice. And our attempt is to work with the inspiration and the experience of the Kurdish freedom movement and to combine it with our own investigation of our own history and political contextualization of our geography in Germany, to find solutions to work towards democratic autonomy in Germany, towards political self-sufficiency of the society in Germany.
We're the platform of Confederalist Union. We are based in Athens, Greece. We're a political project that was opened from the community of squatted prosfigika in the 4th Congress in 2020-21. We are in a structuring process, although we are politically active. We are working in promoting confederalism in theory and practice in Greek movement as a platformist and anarchist organization. At the same time, we are active politically in Greece. We participating in demos, political assemblies, anti-fascism, ecological struggles, etc. Also, the last 2 years, we opened a campaign about the new penal code and regime shift in Greece, and with the Tembi state crime. We are an organic part, autonomous, but organically connected with the community of squatted prosfigika, with the committee Save Prosfigika. The first one as a social organization, the second one as a diplomatic organization, and with Ruiz Revolutionary Union for International Solidarity as a military organization. The number of our people depends on each organization. So the social organization are about 200 people. The political organization is about 10 people. The diplomatic organization, 4 people, and the military organization has no basic members because it's an informal organization.
Okay, so the offensive is based in Lille, and its ultimate purpose is to implement social ecology, which is a project of society addressing both social and environmental issues. This is the purpose, and the means as a mode of governance is communalism. That is a society in which people organize in order to manage themselves and to decide outside the frame of the nation state. And to do so, to reach this bright future, we have a strategy called double power, which is concerned with creating a counter movement, a revolutionary momentum. And this is called, as I said, double power. And the creation of this counter power is what the offensive does right now. And to do so, our strategy is to join forces in France so far under a common banner. And this common banner is in fact a confederation of various entities. We have local groups, organizations of militants and activists, and finally cooperatives. It is roughly a structure made of 300 contributors. And to achieve our political aims, this allows us to have a monthly income of 700 euros in terms of contributions.
Bueno, pues yo vengo en representación de Apoyo Mutuo, Aragón.
I'm coming in representation of Mutual Aid, Apoyo Mutuo from Aragón.
Aragón es una de las comunidades autónomas dentro del territorio del Estado español.
Aragón is one of the counties or autonomous regions of the Spanish state.
Y esta organización surge hace alrededor de unos 3 años atrás.
And this organization started like 3 years ago, more or less,
con la intención de desbloquear la situación en la que se encuentran los movimientos sociales y políticos de izquierdas en nuestro territorio.
with the intention to unlock the situation where the grassroots movements and social movements are finding currently in our territory.
Por aclarar esto, pensamos que en nuestro territorio, bueno, es obvio para nosotros y nosotras, que los movimientos se encuentran en un estancamiento brutal, una desmovilización y una serie de inercias que actúan eso simplemente sin pensar, sin plantearse estrategias y sin tener objetivos claros.
To do this, we need to understand that all these movements are in a brutal and major damaging situation where they need to find the way of go out of stop working without strategies and without clear methods.
Creemos que es un clima que se encuentra también en el resto del territorio del Estado español y también en Europa, y por eso encontramos en el confederalismo democrático y la crítica que hace hacia los movimientos de Europa una inspiración para nuestra organización.
We also think that this is a situation that you can find not only in Aragón but also in other parts of the Spanish state and also in other parts of Europe. So we inform our practice from the Democratic Confederalism because we understand that it's a good inspiration to do this.
La mayoría de las personas que forman parte de Apoyo Mutuo vienen del movimiento libertario en diferentes organizaciones y colectivos.
Most of the people that is part of Apoyo Mutuo, Mutual Aid, it's coming from a tradition of the left-wing libertarian movement or anarchist movement.
y de participar en luchas como el anarcosindicalismo, la lucha por la liberación de la mujer, las asociaciones de barrio, el apoyo a las personas migrantes, lucha internacionalista.
From struggles like the anarcho-syndicalism, anarchist unions, the feminist struggle, the women's struggle, the neighborhoods struggle, grassroots associations.
Y aunque hasta este momento hemos estado haciendo sobre todo un trabajo teórico para ver cómo podemos adaptar las ideas del confederalismo democrático a nuestro territorio.
And although up to right now, we just have done a theoretical analysis of how to adapt the principles of democratic confederalism to our territory.
Y por esa razón no hemos abierto la organización a una entrada masiva de militantes.
And that's the reason why we didn't open the organization yet to a massive entrance of militants or members.
Desde el pasado enero tuvimos el congreso donde ya se lanza la estrategia de la organización y donde comenzamos, en teoría, a crecer y a implementar nuestras prácticas y nuestra acción política sobre la sociedad. Ahora es.
So it is from January 2025 that we started to draft a strategy where we decide how to put in practice all these analysis and all these principles that we already studied.
Y simplemente por acabar, la estrategia que nos planteamos para nuestro territorio y que nos marca un poco el horizonte es la creación de, por un lado, un gran movimiento social, un movimiento revolucionario que sea amplio para toda la sociedad, para que pueda adoptar estas ideas.
And just to finish, what we envision is having a strategy that can build up a strong revolutionary movement that is a little bit more broader to articulate all these ideas.
Y por otro lado, la construcción de estructuras sociales paralelas al Estado, que se vayan implementando poco a poco.
And in the other hand, to build up social structures that are parallel to the ones that the state is holding.
Eso, y que vayan cogiendo los asuntos de la sociedad para que la sociedad vaya teniendo poco a poco la capacidad de autogestionarse.
So they can take on board the issues that the society need to address, and the society will end up being self-sufficient.
Okay, my second question will be to know if you have, if you integrate in your organization cooperative or corporation functioning with alternative economical models, and if you do, how do you check that everything is really okay inside this cooperative or corporation? In terms of share of money or working conditions?
Until now, in our organization, we don't have a collective economy or a cooperation, although we see the necessity of finding solutions for that, so the people can start detaching themselves from the capitalist system. And we know from the analysis that for this we also have to find alternative ways of economy, of element ourselves apart from the economy. But yes, in a collective manner for other organization, we don't have it right now.
Yes, as I explained before, a part of us are living in a squad. So like this, we are covering a big part of our surviving, as has to do with the housing, water, electricity, etc. At the same time, we're trying to work with the communal economy project. A part of cooperatives has to do with the community of squad prosfigika. that there is a collective bakery structure, a collective coffee shop structure, a clothing structure, health structure, children structure, etc. There is no salary in this. We're working voluntarily, and the money are going to the collective wallets. So also its structure is working autonomously and has its own wallet. And all of them, they are connected in a general wallet. As a platform, we have opened 2 years ago an eco-community project in an island in northeast Greece with a land of about 10 hectares.
Okay, part of our confederation is made of cooperatives, and those companies are collectively owned and democratically governed. They follow the rules of a movement in France that doesn't have anything to do with the offensive, but since their rules are okay, we agreed to add those cooperatives to our confederation. And here are the several rules of what is called social economy with solidarity. So first, there is a frame for wages, salaries, I mean. There are 5 levels on the ladder. The thing, people are paid only according to their ability to reach one or another of those levels. So there are no negotiation of wages. Therefore, there is gender parity, and also is those wages are there is no opacity between the various people employed in those cooperatives. And yes, this is for the various rules that I know of.
En el caso de Apoyo Mutuo, no es una estructura comunalista ni confederal en sí misma, es una organización política.
In our case, in Apoyo Mutuo, we are not a confederate or communal structure. It's a political structure, political organization in itself.
Entonces tiene sus propios medios de financiación.
So it has its own ways of gathering the money.
Que están basados principalmente en las cuotas de los miembros, de los militantes, y en las actividades que se realizan.
So it's based mainly in the fees, the membership fees that the members paid, and the activities that we organize.
Y este dinero, la organización sí que lo distribuye por núcleos territoriales.
This money is distributed by territorial center points.
Sí, en todo nuestro territorio, porque es la forma que tenemos de estructurarnos dentro del territorio la organización, ¿no? Y cada uno de estos núcleos tiene autonomía para implementar la acción política, la estrategia y demás cometidos de la organización dentro del marco ideológico y el marco estratégico que se plantea a nivel general.
Each of these territorial focus points have their own autonomy to create activities, to distribute the money, and to take decisions about that, always according to the strategy that has been defined in a general level.
Y luego sí que es cierto que en cuanto a la democracia económica y cómo contemplamos las cooperativas, uno de los pilares de la línea política de la organización es la democracia económica.
In terms of how we articulate a democratic economy, one of the pillars of the organization is the democratic economy.
Es una de las líneas políticas que se intenta implementar desde la organización, pero que a día de hoy simplemente se está trabajando para crear dentro de este pilar, ¿no?, ideológico, un marco amplio en el que mucha gente se pueda sentir representada.
We are in the process of developing wide frame for this principle, to articulate this principle, so we can have inside it as many people as possible.
Okay. So now, do you have some specific politics about women representation in your organization? If yes, have you encountered some difficulty, and which one? And for example, how do you do when there is not enough volunteer women for share the responsibility?
I'm sorry. Women's liberation is one of the key topics in our organization, as we follow the paradigm of the Kurdish movement and also the Kurdish women's revolution. In our organization, we are a gender mixed organization, so inside we do have autonomous spaces, autonomous parts, which are only for the women and gender dissidents to work and to reflect and also to develop own feminist works, autonomous works without the men. But we don't have norms about every task has to be one man or one woman, for example. But in the praxis, in the end, on the local level, we can see that the most tasks are done also by women, or even there are working groups which are naturally growing to be only led by women. So yes, we don't have norms about this, but in general, we work also with the concept that also the male friends in the organization, they are working to change the dominant manhood, and to develop a anti-patriarchal gender identity, also the men, while we are with the autonomous spaces, encouraging the women to take a leading position in the movement and also in our organization.
More than 50% of the different autonomous organizations I mentioned before are women, the political members of them. In the social organization, there is a woman structure that is working. So also the most of the members of the platform, the women members of the platform, they are parts of it. There is no difference in political or technical responsibilities, as has to do with women and men. So the women comrades, they are taking part in a big number of them. And we solve the different kind of problems that they may appear about gender issues or other things like this with a lot of common work and common understanding.
Okay, so the offensive is a feminist movement. So we try to have parity in every mandate and in every aspect of the organization. Sometimes, of course, it's difficult to have parity. So that means women can have lots of mandates, but we're trying to ask men to make a step back to let place for women. And inside the offensive, there are a group for women when we can talk. And we also have, how can I say, Olivier says. Oui, ça, ouais, mais c'est plus le. Ça, c'est pas.
Commission.
It's a commission about sexual violences. There's someone who experiences sexual violations. There are contact, they can give how to do, and we have to talk about this.
Vale. En Apoyo Mutuo, en este sentido, seguimos también los pasos que nos ha enseñado un poco el confederalismo democrático.
In mutual aid, in Apoyo Mutuo, we also follow the steps that the Democratic Confederalism in some ways is teaching us.
Ideológicamente entendemos que la sociedad, o sea, la libertad de la sociedad no puede realizarse sin la liberación de la mujer, y la liberación de la mujer tampoco puede realizarse sin la liberación de la sociedad.
Ideologically, we understand that the liberation of the woman cannot happen, the liberation of society cannot happen without the liberation of the woman, and vice versa. The liberation of the woman cannot happen without the liberation of society.
Por esta razón, en nuestra organización intentamos también tratar de ser paritativos, ¿no?
It's because of this that in our organization we try to keep the parity as well.
Y existe una estructura de mujeres paralela a la organización principal, ¿no? Digamos una estructura espejo.
And there is a parallel structure of women to the main organization. It's like a mirror structure of the other one.
Cosa que tenemos que agradecer a las mujeres porque les implica en muchos casos una doble militancia.
That is something that we need to be very grateful to the women, because sometimes that is a double militancy for them.
Pero ellas también entienden que es un esfuerzo que les corresponde realizar.
But they also understand and take on board that that is an effort that they need to do.
Tenemos que ser también honestos y honestas, y la realidad es que tenemos un problema en el que es que militan menos mujeres que hombres en la organización.
But to be honest, the reality is that less women than men are militant in our organization.
Lo que pasa que entendemos también que es un reflejo al final de la sociedad y del resto de movimientos sociales y políticos, ¿no? que hay.
But we also understand that it's a result of the society and the state of the different political movements.
Por eso pensamos que el trabajo para solucionar esto principalmente tiene que ir también hacia el exterior, hacia la sociedad, aunque tratamos de implementar la extensión de la organización poniendo el foco en organizaciones y colectivos de mujeres, ¿no? Para ganar ese equilibrio.
That's also why we understand that this is a work that we have to do to the outside of the organization, with other organizations as well that can join us. But at the same time, when we go to the outside, we need to put the focus on women organizations.
Y también dentro de las luchas por la liberación de la mujer, aquí en Europa vemos que hay muchas fracciones, mucha división. Y
in that sense, for example, we can see how all around Europe, in the women's organizations, there are a lot of fragmentation and a lot of division.
Y dentro de la organización esto se refleja también en diferentes puntos de vista, pero lo importante es que hemos conseguido encontrar los puntos en común que nos permiten comenzar a hacer ya un camino hacia nuestra acción política.
So this is also reflected inside of the organization, and we can see it, but what we have done is a long process of conversation that allow us to find an understanding point that enact our process to act politically.
What do you think you bring in addition compared to other anarchists or social or democratic socialist movements that are like classic and exist since long time in Europe?
Well, in our geography, we see two big problems in the political movement. That on the one hand, the more ideologically strong and radicalized left-wing movement is very detached from society. It's isolated from society, which is a very big problem. And on the other hand, initiatives that are more based in society, they don't have a broad political view. They are far away from being revolutionary, and very often they even show state loyalty. And one thing we try as the Initiative for Democratic Confederalism is build a bridge between these two parts of the political movement in Germany by activities. For example, we do create or participate in neighborhood initiatives, and by creating a community on the values of democratic confederalism, we think we take steps towards reconnecting the radical left movement, a movement for a free society, to base it back into society. And on the other hand, we find a way back of connecting with the society, connecting with the people that until now maybe not share all of our political visions or don't have exactly our opinion. And we think this is the main task for militants in Europe, especially in our geography in Germany. This is the main issue, to be able to create back the conditions of mass movements, we think.
First of all, we are using mostly the term communal confederalism. Of course, we're speaking about the same thing. But for us, it's more easy to go to the root of the term. At the same time, we're speaking about democracy, we're speaking about community or communes. It's the natural organization of the communities through the centuries. But also it's more easy for us to use this word because for a lot of comrades, especially inside the anarchist movement in Greece, the term democracy or democratic is a bit touchy in a way, if I can say it like this. So also for the first reason I explained, also for the second I speak about just right now, we're using the term communal confederalism. I will try to avoid to speak about differences. Of course, we understand a lot of differences between us that we are working on this political culture. But I think it's not the time to speak about the critics, weaknesses, etc. We find also in the pure anarchist movement, let's say, or the leftist organizations and ideologies. What in a few words I can say is that we find our view a more inclusive one, a more dialectic one, and with a much more perspective. In reality, we understand that the different ideologies that came from the era of modernity as a social movement, anarchists, social revolutionaries, communists, etc., have made their circle, also us inside it. Of course, ideologically, we're not finished. but in a way, historically, and through the results as a movement that we have brought, we believe that it's a time for collective self-critic. Keep the positive things and take out the negative things that have brought us to the historical situation that we are now. And based on this, we believe that the communal or democratic confederalism give a big part of these answers that we are looking for.
Okay, so I would be tempted to say that so far, considering where we are in the fight against the counter-revolution and the international fascism, it is not of real importance to emphasize the differences between projects that haven't so far reached their ultimate purposes. And in their ultimate stage, I would say, there might be some certain differences. But I think it's of no use right away now to emphasize those differences. Therefore, I think it's better to share some anecdotes regarding the differences that exist on the local level, for example, in Lille, and that already exist even though either communalists and anarchists in Lille haven't succeeded in implementing their projects. And I can list 3 differences. The first one is the way we organize popular assemblies. Communalists, most of the time, they want a kind of office that is someone who take care of the turn to speak, another one who is the president of the assembly, and the last one who takes notes. And this, in most anarchist places in Lille, is already considered as red tape. That is a kind of proto-bureaucracy. So this is the first difference. And the second one is the way in general assemblies decisions are taken. For communalists in Lille, we rely on the majority, whereas most anarchist places rely on decisions taken for unanimous decisions. And the final one is regarding local election. Since we are more concerned with Bookchin and social ecology, we consider that taking part in election regarding towns is a good means to seize power, at least local power. And this is strongly opposed by anarchists. So I think those 3 differences are what make the difference today.
Vale. Esta pregunta, en nuestro caso, nos la hemos hecho también la propia organización, porque para dar ese paso y desbloquear la situación en la que nos encontrábamos, pensamos que teníamos que hacer algo diferente a lo que se estaba haciendo hasta ahora.
We also ask these questions ourselves inside of the organization, because we thought it was crucial if we wanted to unlock the situation where we are right now politically.
Y cuando miramos el confederalismo democrático en Kurdistán, intentamos ver qué es lo que nos trae diferente, ¿no?, a lo que estábamos haciendo aquí.
So when we look at the democratic confederalism in Kurdistan, what we see is that it's a completely different thing to what we were doing here.
Y llegamos a la conclusión de que realmente el horizonte que plantea el confederalismo democrático no es lo realmente diferente.
So our conclusion was that what the Democratic Confederalism is proposing is not actually the real different thing.
De hecho, muchas luchas revolucionarias aquí en nuestro territorio también están basadas en la ecología, en la liberación de la mujer, en la democracia directa.
In fact, some of the ideologies that were developed in our territory were directly linked to the women liberation, to ecology, to the direct action.
Incluso hemos tenido ejemplos de revoluciones en Occidente que han planteado una estructura social basada en el comunalismo libertario, en el socialismo, el federacionismo.
We even have examples in Western countries where you can see that there has been revolutionary processes that actually were proposed in this more focus on the libertarian communism, ecology,
El socialismo, federalismo.
Socialism, federalism.
Es decir, modelos de sociedad muy similares a los que se han puesto en práctica en Rojava.
They were models quite similar to what has been put in practice in Rojava.
Por eso la conclusión a la que llegamos es que lo que nos diferencia realmente y lo que nos ha llamado la atención del confederalismo democrático es el medio de transporte que usamos para llegar hasta ese horizonte.
So our conclusion of this question is that what is really different for the democratic confederalism is the means to transport this message, the way to convey the message.
Y en este sentido nos apoyamos en una reflexión de Abdullah Öcalan.
In that sense, we support our thesis in a quote of Abdullah Öcalan,
Que dice que una revolución violenta que cambia el Estado o que cambia el poder en un momento concreto no puede garantizar a largo plazo la transformación social.
that it says that violent reactions that overtake or overcome the state, it cannot guarantee the social transformation in a long term.
Porque la sociedad que va a vivir ese cambio es la misma que un día anterior, ¿no? Antes de la revolución.
Because the society that is going to sustain that change is the same than the day before they started that overtaking of the power.
Por lo tanto, pensamos, como dice Öcalan, que la fuerza que tenemos es en influir en el tejido social, ¿no?
So as Öcalan says, we think that the strength that we have is to make impact in the social fabric that we have right now before us.
Eso es un trabajo directamente con la mentalidad, ¿no? Con la ética, con los valores. Es un trabajo mucho más lento, pero que pensamos que es imprescindible. Tenemos que actuar sobre la descolonización del pensamiento.
And there is a job that it impacts directly into the mentality, into the ideology, but it is a more slow-paced work. It is something that is a more long-term thing that it will have an impact in society.
Do you think that the democratic ideology that is carried by democratic confederalism is led to socialism when applied to middle and upper classes in our European societies?
Well, for sure, a proper analysis of class and the situation of the workers is still crucial for an understanding of our political situation and for example, emphasizing struggles of workers and use this as a basis for organization also. But on the other hand, the question which relevance has the differences of the class for the democratic society may be a little bit more complex, because at least if we follow the critical analysis of Abdullah Öcalan of the historical socialism, he questions if the difference between the classes, taking it as the most relevant thing, was a problem of the historical socialism, as we could think that creating a united society cannot be based on the differences, for example, class differences. But what we think is really relevant for changing society and reaching a democratic autonomy is to change the mind of all society and to find a way to change the mentality or to find access to free the mentality of all people of society. And I think we have to start where we are, and where we are in our neighborhood, in our city, in our village, we meet different people. So we have to find a way to communicate with our society and to work against, for example, the influence of individualism and liberalism in all parts of society, and recollect the communal aspects in the personality and the aspects of trust, and show that we can create a society that is based on different values. But for sure, this communication and this approach has to be a different one regarding the group that we are communicating with.
Yes, first of all, we must recognize the complexity of the modern societies, especially the modern societies, and the societies of the Western world even more. How we understand this situation, we follow the term of 99%, 1%. And of course, in this 99%, there are also a lot of people of the middle or upper classes. Okay, even though any revolutionary movement or any societal change includes a lot of parts of the upper classes, there must be a very clear definition about the role and the responsibility of them. And this role and responsibilities cannot only be based in idealistic slogans or wills, but with a few words. Any upper class, the first responsibility that should take for social liberation and for the lower classes is to betray their own class. So with this mentality, we can speak about the progressive role that different people of these classes can play for the society and for a cause of social liberation. As has to do with the role of the upper classes for democracy and socialism, of course we can speak for hours. A lot of historical figures from these classes played a revolutionary role. But as a class in general, Abdullah Öcalan, in a very good way, speaks about it, saying that the upper class, this 1%, let's say, transformed the ancient Greek Athenian democracy to a dead corpse, killing all the democratic cultures inside the ancient Greek communities. and we think that we're living the same situation. In the 20th century and also in the last decade, that this democratic culture that was created through the big revolutions in the first stages of modernity are getting killed from these upper classes and the economical and political elites.
Well, this one to be answered, I must rely on theory because we're in the French context of ours, a far cry from the revolution. So therefore, I would say that if we think of socialism as the moment when society will be cured of capitalism and bourgeois society, therefore we would end up with, according to Marx, a society devoid of classes, at least in terms of means of production. But there would in fact still be classes, but those, this time according to French sociologist Bourdieu, there would remain classes, but this time with cultural and symbolic capital. And in fact, those differences already exist and are very visible and prevalent in popular assemblies, because it is those people who work in universities, those teachers, most of the time white, privileged men or women, who tend to be favored and to become, let's say, naturally leaders of opinion in popular assemblies. So therefore, we must be careful, and I'm not saying here that anti-capitalism is useless. It's not the point. But the importance of social class in terms of cultural and symbolic capital is a problem that should be taken care of right now.
Bueno, no me voy a extender mucho porque creo que se ha respondido muy bien a esta pregunta y suscribo lo que han dicho los compañeros y las compañeras.
Yeah, I subscribe everything that the comrades here have been saying, all of you, so I'm not going to extend myself so much.
Simplemente apoyar la idea de que desde el confederalismo democrático se ve como el sujeto revolucionario de la sociedad y no la clase.
I just want to add the idea that from the democratic confederalism, the revolutionary subject is the society and not the class.
Porque entendemos que en la lucha revolucionaria intervienen más dimensiones, aparte de la dimensión material, que es la que divide la sociedad en clases.
Because we understand that in the revolutionary struggle, there are more dimensions than the class.
Pero aún así creo que hay que tener cuenta, o sea, hay que tener cuidado con algunos lenguajes, porque yo creo que el concepto de clase media.
But however, we need to be careful with the language that we use, because I believe that the concept of middle class
es un concepto un poco trampa.
It's a little bit of a trap.
Desde mi punto de vista, lo que existe es una clase trabajadora, que es la mayor parte de la sociedad.
In my opinion, I think what we have is that most of the part of the society is working class. It's the people who work.
Y otra parte que es la que domina la sociedad, ¿no?
and another part that is the one that dominates and controls the society.
Alguien que se considera a sí mismo clase media, lo que le ocurre es que está engañado.
Someone who considers themselves middle class, probably it's just that they're being tricked.
Porque una persona que hoy es clase media, porque tiene un trabajo, también su pareja, y están pudiendo pagar la hipoteca, mañana lo despiden del trabajo y en 6 meses puede ser un miserable.
Because someone who is middle class today and they are paying their mortgage and their bills, the next day they stop paying that and they end up being underclass and very miserable.
Por lo tanto, creo que no tenemos que entrar a esas distinciones que solo ayudan al final a separarnos, ¿no?, entre clases, a vernos como desiguales y no a buscar los puntos que realmente tenemos en común como sociedad.
So we don't necessarily need to get into those differences about class that separate and divide us, but finding what are the points that actually connect us as
My
society.
last question will be about the interaction you have with other political group you want to work with, and I want to know if you had some issues with some political groups that have that want to keep their ideological direction, and in which proportion is it a barrier for cooperation, and how do you manage to lower this kind of barrier?
Well, one reflection we have is that one of the problems of the leftist movement, at least in Germany, is that it's circling around itself, for example, by only cooperating with other already radical left political groups. So we have 2 main works we do. One is connecting democratic forces, such as initiatives and other political groups, but also the other very important work we do is working in society, experiencing ourselves as part of society, creating democratic community, and so on. So I think not only cooperating and having the focus on other political groups already takes some pressure out of the necessity of a homogeneous leftist movement. And but of course there are differences we all have in our personality and incorporated in our movement, the tendency of separation because of the differences. So I will give one example of an activity we do to overcome this, although there are differences, and it is in the local group of the IDK in Bochum that we have implemented the so-called council from below, which is not a neighborhood council like we do in other local groups. It's a city-wide council which is addressing also actively political organizations, initiatives, but also individuals can come. It's an open assembly. And in this council, the initiatives can present their topics, they can present their works, and we are trying to connect them to one united movement in our region, because this is missing. And we are doing this by beginning it with a speech in which we planned our political analysis of the situation by giving the meaning of this assembly as a step towards a political movement that can help us grow the democratic nation, that can help us solve the political crisis. And later on, the participants can also discuss our political and historical contextualization. And we are practicing a non-dogmatic manner of discussion. We are practicing with the participants, working together, although we have differences. And if we see that there is a problem, that someone is very reproducing the tendency of separation, we will talk with them and we will solve it together. And so we and the participants are growing stronger in overcoming differences instead of looking from the the differences or taking them as a reason to separate from each other.
Yes, of course we have problems with them, but if we want to be honest, also they have problems with us. I think it's more important outside of the different political and ideological identities to stay on the base of the problem, that it's dogmatism, and not the different ideologies or political identities. And dogmatism is not something that it's specified specifically on someone, no matter if some ideologies or some political identities and groups are more deep inside it. It's something that has to do with all of us. So everybody of us is living in a danger of in this danger of dogmatism. Outside of this, we try to work between us with more and more ideological analysis and with common dialogue and common understanding with all the other groups, ideologies and identities. And we think that this is a part of our work to do so.
Okay, so we try to work with different leftist groups, far leftists most of the time. We try to gather all these groups to work together because I think there are too much small groups working separated when we will be stronger if we fight together, except of being alone. But of course, sometimes, as for him, sometimes they don't want or they're a little bit reluctant to do it. But like for 2 years ago, there were demonstrations for pension for former workers, and we organized assembly with worker unions, autonomous people, to organize a demonstration and to talk what we want for the pension. So we really try it. I think it's for the same, we all have the same problems. We agree to work with people who are very straight, and sometimes it's more them who have problems with us than the other. We just want to work with the people who respect. We have a charter in l'offensive. We have anti-fascist, anti-racism, feminist. We have ecological interest. But as long as people respect all this aspect, we accept to work with them.
A ver, en este sentido, nosotros y nosotras desde Apoyo Mutuo no tenemos problemas directamente con trabajar con nadie, con ninguna organización ni colectivo. De hecho, ese es nuestro objetivo, trabajar con el resto de organizaciones y colectivos.
In this sense, in mutual aid, Apoyo Mutuo, we don't have that problem. Like, it is the essence of the work that we do to work with different groups. So it's part of what we do.
Es nuestro trabajo porque nosotros no somos una organización proselitista, ni que quiera presentarse a elecciones, ni que quiera aglutinar a todas las fuerzas dentro de la organización.
We're not just trying to do our own program and proselytism and just having all these groups inside for our own only goal of the organization.
sino que el objetivo es precisamente reunirnos con los actores sociales que ya existen, con las fuerzas de izquierdas y con los movimientos revolucionarios y tratar de dotarlos de capacidad de organización y de autonomía para poder crear un movimiento fuerte y amplio que de verdad sea una resistencia al sistema capitalista.
But that the ultimate goal that we want with our work is to get all these organizations together, political organizations, grassroots organizations, any sort of organization that really want to be supported to be a real revolutionary counterforce to the capitalist system.
Pero es cierto que hay un problema muy grande, como comentaba el compañero de Grecia, que es el identitarismo, ¿no?
But it is true that there is a very big problem, as the Greek comrade here was saying, which is the identitarian problem.
Y esto supone muchas veces que otras organizaciones y colectivos nos vean como un rival en vez de como otra organización que también está luchando por lo mismo.
And that sometimes is a challenge because it creates an environment where some organizations see us as a rival instead of as a group that is fighting for the same.
Por eso es muy importante también para nosotros y nosotras trabajar sobre la teoría para dejar esto muy claro, que no somos un rival, que buscamos lo contrario y demostrarlo con la práctica y con el ejemplo.
That's why for us it's so important to work on the theory that we defend, to make clear to the others that we are not rivals, and demonstrate through our practice that this is truth.
Y por otra parte, una de las formas de demostrar esto, mejor dicho, es que la mayoría de las personas dentro de Apoyo Mutuo ya trabajan en otras organizaciones como sindicatos, asociaciones de vecinos, estructuras de mujeres que están día a día en la calle, que están trabajando todos los días, que es donde creemos que de verdad está el cambio y la acción política.
So the best example for that is that some of our militants or our members, our current members, they are already working in unions, in neighborhoods associations, in women's associations. They are already doing the daily work that they have to do, and they are coming under this organization to articulate further.
Well, maybe for some final words, I would like to thank the friends from the Kurdish Freedom Movement who gave the initiative for the People's Platform that brought us all together here and that planted a lot of ideas in all our organization. And since we are representing organizations that are working with the experiences, ideas of the Kurdish Freedom Movement, I think it's a good moment to embrace this again and say again how important it is that they planted the idea of the People's Platform to unite us even more as a European-wide internationalist movement.
We totally agree. It's one of the reasons we're here. It's to connect to other organizations, other European organizations. The same.
Also to thank you from our side. Just a few things about the last question. There was a last one, how we do all this. At least this is what I read from the notes. Yes, I think it's no, but I think we must be more specific, at least from our side. Not a way to speak in a good way about us, but how we can transfer a revolutionary mentality and methodology about our struggles. So in a few words, it's patience, commitment and militancy, comradeship, a lot of work, even more organization. And as also Zapatistas are saying, a bit of the same.